Hello, this is Michał Kłakowski from Software Sales 101. Today we're taking on an important metric which is called ROI, or return on investment. You must have heard this term a million times, but what it really is. So return on investment is one of the ways of describing, measuring an investment opportunity. Imagine you have 100,000 of coins, and you can do either of the two. You can put them into the bank account, or you can buy a flat and rent it out. And imagine that if you put into the bank account, for each year of storing of those 100,000 coins in the bank account, you're going to get 5,000 added. Whereas if you buy a flat, you're going to get 10,000 out of rent from this flat. It still needs to be adjusted because the flat gets used up and you need some renovations, but overall flat has a higher return on investment versus the bank account. Of course, it is only one of the ways of looking at investment. Those two investments would have different risk associated, different liquidity or ease of getting out. It's paying out the money from a bank account versus selling the flat, if you will. They would have different minimum because you can have a bank account for half of the amount, but maybe not necessarily buy a flat for that. But ROI is important because from a perspective of software decision maker, it is one of the most important factors deciding where to put money in. As a CIO, if I have a budget of a given amount per year, I'm allocating it likely to the places which will give me the best return of what I'm doing and are aligned to my priorities and that is a broader topic. ROI is an important thinking instrument from an executive sponsor point of view. It is also going to tell you what is the probability of closing of your project, because if you can't build a credible ROI, then it's very unlikely that your customer will be able to see it. So where do you start? First thing is customer pain. That is exactly the why do anything from the 3 whys we have been talking a couple episodes ago. What is really malfunctioning? What could function better? What is the change we're talking about? The next thing is metric. Metric is a numeric way of expressing that thing. So maybe it is time to serve a ticket, which is too high. Maybe it is cost of delivering a service, which is too high. Maybe it is customer satisfaction, which is too low. Some of them are more tangible than the others, but essentially you need a number to show the before state, the after state, and the value of a gap in between them. It could be monetary, like cost of doing something. It could be risk related, and the expected loss of a risk. It could be basically just some sort of performance metrics, but you need 2 numbers and a way to compare them and understand the dollar value of the difference between them. To get those metrics, you really need your customer buy into the exercise of building the ROI calculation with you. Why? Because it's not a big deal to build a beautiful ROI calculation that your customer would not believe in. In order to sell based on ROI, you need to make it their ROI. They need to really buy into it, believe into it, and be able to sell internally. And for this, you need a diverse perspective. Very often a business process that you're talking about that is going to be addressed by your software is having multiple stakeholders, and those stakeholders would have a different perspective, different way of describing that process. And you need those stakeholders talking to you either at one table or separately in order to credibly build a tangible ROI calculation. And very important thing, absent stakeholders make your business case weaker, because this business case is going to be discussed very likely without yourself being present in the room. And if there are people who say, I object, that I don't agree with those numbers, they're decreasing the value of the whole exercise. So the key element is to gather in one place multiple perspectives representing multiple functions at your customer. And the best way to do that is to gain certain sort of executive sponsorship. Building ROI could be one of the outcomes of that high stake executive conversation searching for sponsorship that we have been covering last. So talking to that sponsor, you understand their criteria is ROI, and you say, that's fantastic. In this case, can I help you build such an ROI? Would you sponsor your team spending half an hour with me each? Of course, building such a calculation, which is typically a glorified Excel file, you're going to be having some metrics that you're polling from your customer during interviews or in writing, but some of them will be missing, and that is the place where your experience as a software vendor kicks in, and you fill them with certain sort of market averages or your experience or just wild guesses. It is not important that you're 100% precise every single time. It is much more important that you're building something realistic, something that when you present that to your customer, and champion is an extremely valuable resource validating that, you show it to your trusted champion and you ask them, do you believe in that, or would you modify that? If you are about to show it to your boss tomorrow, would that be okay for you to present it? And this way you're getting the customer perspective. As soon as they believe in the business case, it doesn't matter if you're 100% correct. It just needs to show certain direction. And important thing when you're showing the difference between before and after state is not to assume everything will happen overnight. There is certain adoption factor that you need to build into that, saying that certain amount of users will just learn about the project over time and they will eventually start using it, and the productivity gain or whatever other kind of gain will build up, but that's not happening. That's not happening overnight. It will depend on the size of the organization, maturity of that organization, and also the internal level of communication. When you have ROI, there's a couple interesting things that you can do about it. Assuming you sell based on that, what you can do is come back to the very same account a year later and do the value realization exercise, which is sitting down with your stakeholders and asking them, hey, listen, which of those assumptions that we made really delivered? That is super important because that builds a tangible and valuable relationship with your customer, who can say, okay, we're really taken care of. We can have our voice. We can speak up and relate to where the value really delivered. Maybe there is something we can fix or move or do differently. It is also tremendously valuable in terms of reference. So assume this customer is happy and the value realization goes well, or basically they're happy just after the purchase, and you ask them, listen, would you want to be my reference? You have a full story of what is actually going on written down into that ROI calculation. What is the problem? Why are we changing anything? Why are we changing now? What is to expect? Excellent way of telling the reference stories. So, but primarily ROI is your way of qualifying if the project that you're pushing is valuable to your customer as well. Do you have win-win? Are you going to sell, and with which probability? Next week, we're going to focus on how quickly can you close, knowing that you can close. So please subscribe, comment, and see you next Wednesday.